So before there was Tinder and dating apps and all that nonsense, social media in general, there was something called dragging Maine. Okay, so most of you know me as the Disney-loving, dumpster-diving Frugal Mama here on YouTube, and that is true, and that is a big part of who I am. But I also have a colorful past that I think I want to share. I think I've been married long enough, we're going on 18 years this summer, and have proven that we have a very happy, devoted marriage, such that we are in a place where I can share the past. Yes, a Disney-loving, dumpster-diving, happily married mother of 3 now. But in my past life, in my younger years, I was a bit of a, what can we say, without getting demonetized, I was a bit of a go-about. Now, this is generally in smaller towns. From what I've been told, it's not something you're likely to see in like New York, but where I've lived, it was definitely a thing, and it was something I absolutely engaged in starting in high school as soon as we had access to a car and a driver that was not one of our parents. So what was dragging Maine? Well, dragging Maine meant that you, with your friends, your girlfriends, or on your own if you were kind of crazy, you would drive up and down Main Street and attempt to connect with other draggers that you were interested in. You would slow your car down and attempt to talk through the window to whoever you were interested in. And if you decided, hey, we want to like get to know each other, you would head off of Main Street elsewhere, parking lots, parks, whatever, wherever, and get to know each other. This is my grown-up, uncensored, unfiltered channel, and we're going to talk about the past. So first, let's acknowledge the fact that I am incredibly lucky to be alive long enough to have built a family, to have found the love of my life, my soulmate, my life partner, and to have created this life that we have and have our 3 fabulous kids. I am so incredibly lucky, considering the ridiculously dangerous behaviors that I engaged in those days. We're talking pulling off to the side of the road to unlit places, because if you went to lit places and engaged in getting to know people, you would have the cops on you, and you didn't want that. So you would go elsewhere, other places, dark places, or you would end up a canyon or two where people have had their lives ended in very dark and nefarious ways. But you would do this with the aim of satisfying your needs and getting to know new friends and possibly building long-term relationships built on the solid foundation of dragging Maine. Now, if you didn't find anyone on that first lap on Main Street, well, you would just turn around at the end and you would just go back and forth until you did find someone. And even if you had found someone and had you a good hookup, you might get back out on the road and hope you didn't run into them again, because that'd be really awkward. But if your tank wasn't full and your gas tank wasn't empty, well, shoot, you could just keep going and going and going until, you know, it all kind of petered out at the end of the night, or the cops told you to go home. Whichever came first. Now, you were generally not hoping to run into people that you actually knew. If you did run into people that you knew, you'd wave and you'd, you know, hey there, hello. And it was fine to see people that you knew, but you generally didn't want to, because that was kind of embarrassing, actually. You were looking more for people that you didn't know, but people that you thought, you know, you'd be comfortable with. Now, if you saw someone on there, and this happened, okay, this happened, that you know, was like 30. Oh my God, 30? Jesus. No, but I mean, actually that is pretty gross, you know, when you would run into a 30-year-old, because the average age of people out there dragging mane was, you know, like 15 to 18, okay? So you did not want you a 30-year-old out there, you know, hanging out. Ooh. No. Ugh. And it wasn't just that this ended, you know, when high school ended. A lot of times, yeah, you'd still be out there, but not when you were 30. And you did not want to be hooking up with any 30-year-old. I would say my max age at the time for people like on Main Street, granted I was between the ages of like 16 and 19 when I was engaging in this reckless behavior. I would say anyone from like 17 to 21 was like the absolute max. And of course some people lied about their age and some could get away with it. And really at the end of the day, in the back of the car, it didn't matter a whole hell of a lot. Even though we knew we were doing something that probably wasn't the smartest and was probably a little bit dangerous, you did have, you know, that survival instinct somewhere inside you, in the back of your mind, very shrouded and covered by hormones, that was telling you, no, not 30-year-olds. Sometimes you would get their phone number and you might meet up again, especially if it was really enjoyable or they were really hot. And maybe you would tell them where you worked and they would show up at your work and visit with you or whatever. And you would show them off, especially if they were worth showing off. You would show them off to your coworkers and whatever. But did any long-lasting relationships come out of dragging mane? Well, maybe, but not for me. For me, it was just fun and hormones and silliness. And I'm wondering, did you drag mane? Did you? Did you do it? What were your limits? You don't need to tell me. Everyone has their own limits, and I had my own. And as a teenager, that meant lots of kissing, lots of making out, which, you know, inevitably would evolve into a little bit more getting, you know, whatever. Not going all the way, because these were perfect strangers, okay? Not, well, later. Those boundaries may be changed, just not with dragging mane, but with like proper dates, because these were not dates, okay? This was not a date. This was not your modern hanging out. This was straight up Tinder hookup type stuff. That's what this was. I mean, you would know their name, mostly, usually their first name at least, and you would have a half hour, an hour, who knows, somewhere in a car, on a bench. And you're making out, and you've got maybe music playing on the CD player in the car, and you're having fun, or you're, you know, in the back of a truck. You know, in a small town, often they're rural, and so there's trucks. And you're in the back of a truck, you hopefully have a blanket, maybe a pillow, I don't know. And you're getting to know each other.
Would you like to have a roll in the hay? It's fun! Roll, roll, roll in the hay.
And you are sowing your wild oats, and you're just having fun and not thinking, you know, about the existential or long-term ramifications or the potential danger. Oh my God! The potential danger of being with a perfect stranger in the back of a car, in the back of a truck, in the front of a car, in the front of a truck, wherever you were, on a park bench or rolling around on the grass in the park. Hopefully the sprinklers hadn't been going. You weren't thinking the thoughts that now, as a 42-year-old woman, a mother of 3, the thoughts that I think now, after years and years, decades of true crime, lots and lots of true crime viewing, that, holy shit,
I survived!
how are you even alive? And geez, I lived a colorful life, and this is just the beginning. This is just a taste, just to kind of, you know, get us all warmed up. An appetizer, if you will. Somehow I made it. I lived. There's some scars, okay? There are some scars from the many journeys of Julie. There's some scars. No one gets out 100% unscathed, and I didn't. But there was adventure along the way. And you know what? If you've lived through it and can still laugh about it, or finally laugh about it, whatever the case may be, why not share it? Get a little bit of entertainment out of it, have a little bit of fun, and see what other people's situations were, and memories and experiences from days gone by, things that don't, well, who knows, they might exist in some places, but in the era now of online dating and hookup apps and all this kind of stuff, I mean, I just don't see dragging Maine being a thing anymore. I know that in areas where I lived and grew up and dragged and all of that, it's not even legal anymore. They don't even let you do it anymore. With good reason, I'm sure. You know, good reason. You clog up the roads, and you know, when you're like trying to talk to someone and make a connection, you're both slowing down, which is driving all the other people around you crazy and is really obnoxious. And small towns have grown, or others have shrunk. Whatever the case, I just don't see that being a thing anymore. If you are aware of that still being a thing anywhere, let me know. I'd be really interested. I'd be really interested. Anyway, this is just the beginning of the journeys of Julie, the stories, the tales, the survival, the adventures, the disasters, like leaving my retainer on a park table, picnic table, having to go back for it. That was a thing. Retainers are expensive, and I paid for mine, so you know, Mama went back. It wasn't Mama back then, but Julie went back and got that retainer. Luckily, it was still there. Too many crazy stories. The canyons that I survived somehow, where all kinds of horrible things have happened, but somehow I got out and am here sitting in my laughing place garden today telling you all about it. Many stories to come. Lots of you have been asking.
This stuff is like gold.
I will definitely leave names and a lot of identifiers out of these stories. There are a lot of them to share, a lot of, you know, to all the men I've loved before, because there were a lot that I loved, whether it was for a moment, a half hour, an hour, a year or two. There was a lot of them. There are cautionary tales and entertainment and things where you're going to be like, oh my God. Our Disney loving, dumpster diving, frugal mama. There's color in that past, and it's coming to you. Get ready. See y'all real soon.